Go. So there is another question that was asked, and it was the following: how is that if one of us embodies oneness, samadhi, all the other forms are that too? So this is a very interesting topic actually. How is it that if somebody is liberated, all those who are in tune with it are also liberated? Now, let us think of an example. Let us pick a very great master from the past. And let us pick Sri Ramakrishna as an example. Now we know that he was truly an illumined soul, and that he felt one with absolutely everything. All the creation was his playground. Truly a very beautiful life he had, with a very beautiful mission and a very beautifully fulfilled mission. And at the end of his life, when his mission was fulfilled, he left his body, liberating himself from even the form. He truly became again one with the mother, even beyond the form world. So the question is, he was one with everything, and he felt that, and he expressed that in so many ways. And then he attained final absolute freedom. So does it not mean that everything he thought of as himself, being the whole creation, and one with the mother, one with source, has everything not been liberated? And the answer is, it has. And now we can think about it that even before the liberation of one master, there for sure has been another master that has been liberated, and before that, and before that, and even before the very first master that has been liberated, there was liberation itself that was there to be expressed, that was there to be experienced. So in that moment, in this very sacred moment of sitting and listening to this talk, in reality, because there have been masters who have become everything and then became liberated, everything that is liberated too. So this form, that form, all the creation in reality is a big liberation itself. It is a big phenomenon. It is a big one liberation. And just because that master, let's say, left the body at the end of his life, it means that the experience has always been there. It was always ready to be grasped, to be experienced. And so it means that in reality, there's no bondage. In reality, there's only the divine, here, there, everywhere. So can we say that the divine is bound? Not really. So if everything is the divine, everything is liberated, ever pure, ever free, ever conscious, ever existent. So in that meaning, there's no liberation as well, because if you're ever free, what do you need to be liberated from? There's nothing to be liberated from. There's no liberation when you are bound to something. But if you have never been bound to something, how can you know how it is to be bound? So you cannot be liberated either. So in reality, if there's one person who is in the ave of liberation, in the beauty of liberation, even though there's no liberation, but we call it as such because from this plane it seems that they were liberated. if there are people who tune themselves to that divine being, feeling their oneness with them, with that divine being, this is why, for example, devotion to a particular manifestation of the divine works. For example, we know avatars in the past, such as Gautama Buddha, Ramakrishna, Elijah the prophet. We know these divine incarnations. And one thing that they taught is that they were one with everything, and by loving them with all you have, you are liberated too. And this is the mechanism why this works. Because you can tune yourself to all that is, because the all that is manifested itself as a divine incarnation, namely those whom we spoke of and those whom we have not yet, but in general, any divine incarnation. And because you tune yourself to that, which is everything in a human form, who has expressed itself as OneSelf, one goes through the bridge, because they are, in a way, the bridge to the divine, they themselves being the divine. And you just go through the bridge, and there you are, being an incarnated divine, and people then can go and tune to you, and then they also can become the same. And this is called, for example, a master line. When there's a master who passes its knowledge to a disciple, and that happens again and again, and we call it a master line. Because in reality, that master, a particular part of that master, incarnates again in the devotee, in the disciple. And so they become that which their master was. And if the master was the one, the self, they just have to put effort in understanding their connection and just giving everything up to the self, being in form or not in a form, it doesn't matter at that time, because the self is the self. In form or without a form, it's the same thing then. And you just surrender to that form, and you just give up everything, and there you go. This is where devotion has its origins, and this is why it's actually possible to be devoted to. You can be devoted to a rock, or a piece of grass, or a bottle of water, and if you know how to devote yourself to something and give up everything to that, you could be even liberated through being devoted to a rock, because in reality it is a manifestation of the divine. Okay, the rock might not tell you that it is the divine, but in reality it is the divine manifested. So to whatever form you devote yourself, for sure, after some time, it will lead you to the final goal, if you know what truly devotion means. Truly devotion, not just going after strict rules, because that's not devotion. Devotion is being so much in tune with that form of the divine that you see that form of the divine everywhere, no matter where you go, no matter what you see. You will eat the divine, you will breathe the divine, you will dance for the divine, you will sing for the divine. Every word of yours is filled with the divine, and that's very much it. And when everything becomes the divine, you have no fears, you have no doubts, because whatever you do, you know as the reason the divine, the consequence as the divine, the action as the divine. Everything that can be done and cannot be done is just the divine present everywhere, waiting to be again together with the smaller self, as the smaller self becomes the self itself. And in the big self, the divine and the devotee of the divine are truly non-different anymore. So this is how one being in bliss can grant this bliss to others who tune themselves to its own spirit, because my spirit is not different from your spirit, and is not different from the spirit of anything. The spirit of creation is my spirit and your spirit as well. So we just remind ourselves how it is to be spirit itself, without gaps, without any buts, without any howevers. There are no howevers. There is just that you are.